How's this for a procession of Italian exotica? The Alfa Romeo 8C, Ferrari 430 Scuderia and Maserati Granturismo in Monte Carlo, the home of the Monaco Grand Prix. And Car Magazine has the keys to all three. 57 years after Alfa, Ferrari and Maserati scored the first 3 places in the famous Monaco race, we've collected the latest and greatest from each and brought them here. Home to the super rich, the tax haven of Monaco with its casinos and beautiful people is the place to come if you want to spot supercars, but not if you want to drive them. Monte Carlo is as frustrating in a road car as it is in an F1 car. Let's get out of here and see what these cars can really do.
Like all Alfa Romeos, the 8C looks fantastic and the interior is a work of art. Just look at this solid hunk of aluminium in the middle of the dash. But unlike all modern Alfas, the 8C is rear-wheel drive, which means it's great to steer along roads like these. The Ferrari Scuderia features adjustable dampers, so you can fine-tune the ride quality. The 8C doesn't, and it's rock solid. And while that's great for racetracks, you'll soon be begging for a softer option on longer trips. The 4.7 litre engine is related to the 4.3 litre in the Maserati, but here it makes 450 brake horsepower. That's 50 more. And where the Maserati has a cultured exhaust note, the 8C sounds like an accident in a fireworks factory. While the Alfa looks and sounds amazing, it doesn't quite convince dynamically. The steering is quick to respond, but it lacks feel. The brakes aren't as reassuring as they could be, and the chassis doesn't communicate its intentions as clearly as we'd like. But the 8C is still great fun, and it's certainly quick. It scorches to 60 in 4.2 seconds and goes on to 182 mph top speed. But is the 8C a real Alfa? The engine is from Maserati, the gearbox is from Maserati. In fact, the whole car's been peering over the old Maserati Grand Sport's shoulder for inspiration. But the styling and interior are unmistakably Alfa. And in an era of platform sharing and badge engineering, that counts for a lot.
Even before you've reached for that steering wheel mounted start button, you just know that this car is going to be something special. The supportive but fully adjustable buckets, the bare floors and the Manatino lever controlling the EDIF leave you in no doubt about that.
Now, if you're of the opinion that how a car drives is more important than how it looks, then you need a Ferrari 430 Scuderia. It's far more than just an F430 with a set of noisy pipes and no carpets, though both are part of its DNA. It's been on a diet, which means it weighs 100 kilograms less than a regular 430. And the engine's been tweaked too to deliver an extra 20 horsepower for a total of over 500. It's at its best being driven fast on a circuit, where you can make use of its carbon ceramic brakes and 60 millisecond gear change. But it's just as happy trickling through the streets of Monaco.
Ferrari wisely decided against turning the Scuderia into a car that could only cut it on the circuit and not on the road. While Porsche equips its hardcore models with semi-slick rubber that's great in the dry but can't handle standing water, Ferrari has chosen more sensible-looking Pirelli P0 Corsa tyres for the Scuderia. Not a bad move as it happens. The amount of grip on offer is simply staggering and the steering is much more responsive than an F430's. But for all the chassis and aero mods, the engine still dominates this car. It's essentially the same 4.3 litre V8 fitted to the F430, but a compression ratio hike and modifications to help it breathe more easily, including a carbon airbox and lightweight exhaust, mean it feels much faster. Ferrari doesn't quote a 0 to 62 mph time, only saying that it's less than 3.6 seconds. Sounds conservative to us. This thing will rev to 8,500 RPM, won't stop pulling until you're doing 198 mph. There's nothing ambiguous about the Scuderia. It's unmistakably a Ferrari and quite possibly the greatest Ferrari we've ever driven.
You might think the Maserati is the odd man out in this company, but the engines are very closely related. Now, while the Alfa and the Ferrari are more hardcore, the Maserati is more of a gentleman's carriage. It's a luxury Grand Tourer, but with very sporting pretensions.
The cabin is absolutely sumptuous. While the Alfa and Ferrari are crammed with F1 style carbon fibre, the Mazda majors on wood and leather because the emphasis is not on saving weight, but pampering driver and passenger. Absolute peace reigns, even during motorway sprints, with barely a whistle of wind noise or grumble from the tyres.
In the past, Maseratis have rightly been criticised for having a really jerky transmission, but the Granturismo has a new automatic box, and in automatic mode it's perfect for cruising around Monte Carlo. But up in the hills, I like hitting it into manual mode and then using the pedals to change gear, because they're spot on.
Don't think the Granturismo is a soft touch. The ride is tauter than a Jag's and body roll well contained. And the steering is linear and feels meaty, although I'd prefer a little more feedback from the road.
The Maserati is a big car and it's a heavy car, and sometimes its 400 horsepower doesn't quite feel enough. But the engine is still stunning, and when you open it up, although the exhaust note doesn't sound quite as fierce as the Alfa and the Ferraris, it's still absolutely lovely.
Ultimately, the Granturismo is not shamed in such sporty company, which is a huge compliment, and it's certainly a lot easier to live with all year round than the Ferrari or the Alfa. 57 years ago, it was a Grand Prix 1-2-3 for Alfa, Ferrari and Maserati. Today, all three brands have sports cars worthy of such rich history. Cars that are going to give Monaco's millionaires a really tough choice when it comes to their next set of wheels.